Dr Mohamed Al-Saka recently returned to the United Kingdom after a staggering 16 months, I think, under fire, working in the hospitals in Gaza. He did not get a hero's welcome from the British state. There was no bunting for him hung at Westminster. But for those who know, he earned a place in everybody's heart and memory forever. And I'm proud to say he joins us now. Dr. Mohamed, very big welcome to you, and salute on behalf of every person who watches this show for the heroism and dedication to humanity that you and your colleagues in these hellholes they used to call hospitals in Gaza over this last period. But don't make me speak for you. You tell us what it was like, where you were, for how long, and what the conditions were that you experienced.
Thanks a lot, George, for having me on the show. And I'm very grateful to all your listeners and those who've been supporting myself and the team throughout the journey in Gaza. So let me introduce myself. As you rightly said, my name is Dr. Mohamed Al-Saka. I'm an A&E consultant, works in the NHS. That's not the first time visiting Gaza. In fact, I have done so back in 2008 and then 2013, 2014 in Hebron, Nablus. Plus, I have survived the war, the Second Gulf War. I was in Kuwait at the time. So I do have a background of an experience, working or living in a war zone. However, what's happening in Gaza is just beyond anyone's experience, anyone's imagination. I would even challenge the authors of horror books and science fictions to be able to describe the suffering and the atrocity and the brutality that takes place in Gaza, especially in 2025, where we're watching it live, and it's still continuous. So my journey started over a year ago, back in February. I was just like anyone else, just watching what's happening through the TV, and I couldn't be quiet. And I felt I need to be part of this. And I made my first contact with an NGO, and I was chosen among many doctors as in being needing specialty in Gaza. So I've served at the European Hospital. Initially, I've worked for about 5 weeks. And then I returned back to the UK for about a week or 10 days. And I just couldn't take it. I was like, that's it. It's just going to be a one-way journey, and I'm going back. I'm sticking up with the people. I can't just be quiet. So within about 10 days, I returned back to Gaza, and I've been since. So it comes to about a total of 16 months. During that time, initially I was working at the European Hospital up until it was evacuated. I stayed on that black night, I would call it. It was myself and a doctor and about 4 nursing staff. We've done our duty. We've been given the option of leaving, but we decided as long as people are around and patients are in the hospital, we have decided to stay. I'm sure you've all heard testimony from other doctors. I'm just going to mention briefly what happened in the last night, or the night of evacuation, or the black night, as I call it. So it has become a red zone, the European hospital, an order of evacuation from the IOF. Most of people, patients, they fled the hospital. We stayed in the emergency room. And then just after midnight, an active military operation started taking place. And patients were coming in just vast numbers. They were just thrown on the floor, and you just have to deal with it. It's like throwing yourself in the middle of the ocean and you need to start swimming, as simple as that. And the type of injuries that we were seeing, it was, you can't even describe them. Or it will take you a while to describe them. And that's all down to the type of arms they are using. And I'll be honest to yourself and to the public, and even the patients that I was seeing, I was expecting to see militant, young age, middle age group type of people or patients or casualties. But none of that. They were all elderlies, women, children. And there are the circumstances that you have to work under is just beyond imagination. Lack of resources, lack of equipment, lack of medications. And we have just come to a point where we give each patient about 5 minutes of our time. You either make it or you don't. The surgical procedures that we have done or performed, they were all unsterilized. With the same knife, we use it on 2 different patients or even more. And many of these cases, they would have survived, and with no doubt, they would have had a better outcome if we just had the basic facilities. And then after I evacuated from the European hospital, and I felt like there's something more, that can be done. We've established a field hospital in the middle area of Gaza called Deir al-Balah. And then after, and that's really amazing, and this is the best part out of my whole journey. I got introduced to an amazing activist from the UK, Shameen Solomon and Sarah Wilkinson. They are pro-Palestinians for many years. And then we formed a team together, and then we started helping the people, supporting their resilience by implementing sustainable projects that will restore people dignity, if you like. So the work that we focused on were digging water wells. And I remember the first time we started such a project, it was in Khan Yunis. And we were approached by the Red Cross, and we have been told we have to get a GPS approval from the IOF, which, we just said, well, look, we don't need permission from anyone to tell us what to do in our land for our people. And that was the start. In total, and as you probably know, the sources of water almost, I'm mentioning, I think there's over 70 to 80% of water resources that have been damaged by the IOF. And this is where the idea came from. So we started digging water wells We have done in total 18 of them throughout Gaza. Some of them, they were demolished, and some of them, and many of them, they are still providing water for thousands and thousands of people. And then alongside this, we did what we call, or initiated what we call a hospital at home team. So we provide medical cares to the people in the very eastern part of Gaza. Their transportation is impossible. They are often in a red zone area, unreachable. So with our team, we were able to provide medical care for them. During my time, the stories are completely endless. The tragedy is beyond description. We survived, and we decided as a team, to target mainly the places where the NGOs and other organizations are unable to, and mainly to promote people resilience. And we have done so in the second, third evacuation of Khan Yunis. I was in there. We refused to leave. But sadly, with the fourth evacuation, which I think the order came into place about 3 weeks ago, we as a team decided to remain in Khan Yunis and support the people as much as we can, and mainly with the water. We have done so up until last week, where the airstrike became just very... I need to be careful, how I phrase it, but I was going to use the word random, but they are not random at all, so I would say it became more heavy. And then the people now have been pushed to Al-Mawasi area in Khan Yunis. There is no place for people at all. I don't know. I think the majority, they just spending the nights on the streets. And as we say, they spending the night in the middle of nowhere, literally. So I decided, I think it's time to come to speak to you guys, give you a good insight of how brutal and unjustified and horrible this war is. And I've made my contact with the British Embassy, and within 48 hours, 72 hours, I was evacuated. And then I left the team behind, and unfortunately 3 members of, I don't call them a team members, I call them a family. So 3 of our family members, they got shot today by a drone in Khan Yunis. And this is the life of the Palestinians. And unfortunately, life has no meaning at all. You will find someone in the morning, a minute later, he will be struck. There's no safe place in Gaza. I mean, as they're speaking now, you imagine they're saying they've made an order of evacuation to Khan Yunis, and today they're burning tents in what's supposed to be the humanitarian zone. So it appears what they say on the media is something, and what is on the ground is something completely different. But this is
I wanted to ask you, Doctor, about these so-called humanitarian zones. I referred earlier to a kind of bloody, murderous version of Hunger Games, where people are being lured on the promise of food to areas that are purportedly safe, and then murdered in large numbers. Not the odd one or two, but huge numbers of people are being fired upon. What is the game there? How can that possibly be justified by anyone? I mean, I saw Piers Morgan talking to an Israeli shill about it last evening, and she actually denied that it was happening, but we actually can see it happening.
It's not that you can see it happening. It is actually happening in the worst ever existing scale. And trust me, the worst type of weapon that can be used is food, because it's something that is continuous, that hurts you and you can feel it. And they have used it in Gaza at a really very high, disgusting scale, as they say. And let me tell you something. I have witnessed on a couple of occasions when the IOF, they ring member of the public in a particular area, they pre-warn them to, they're going to strike, let's say, this building. And they do specify exactly which one. And I even have videos where they're speaking to them directly and they are naming the people on the street. And even on two occasions, there's one they refused to strike because they specifically said, they even knew what the gender was. They said there's a female on the 3rd floor, she needs to evacuate. And on another occasion, it was a dog. They said, you all have left the dog behind, get the dog out, and then they strike. So what I'm trying to say is they know exactly who they killing and slaughtering. There's nothing random and nothing happens just by accident in Gaza. So all these innocents' lives that they get burned and shot and amputated and decapitated, they're not happening just by accident or while they were targeting a person. And even that doesn't justify it. They know exactly who they're killing. They know exactly who they're targeting. And I started by saying what you hear on the media is something and what is it on the ground is something else. I.e., they've evacuated the eastern part of Khan Yunis. They pushed all the people to what they call a humanitarian zone in Al-Mawasi area and the western part, and yet they get burned alive and they get killed. They have said what they called a humanitarian aid for Gaza, and allegedly, they will be distributing food to people. But what we have seen on the ground, they're stripping people out of their dignity. They're spreading fear and hatred and everything among the people. And the weapon they're using is hunger. And these people, they taken the risk. They know the chance of being killed. It's extremely high. And yet they're making that journey. Do you know why? Because their kids are crying out of hunger, because their wives are crying out for hunger, because they themselves, they're hungry. And what is heartbreaking and what is even more disgraceful, that we are watching this and we're doing nothing about it. We keep saying, next week we're waiting for a ceasefire agreement. Tomorrow we're waiting, for Witkoff, to, I don't know, make some changes over the agreement. But what we're forgetting is what is happening in Gaza is continuous on secondly basis, hourly basis. The condition that the people forcefully have been living in is disgraceful to their humanity, to be honest. This is how I describe it.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. Doctor, how can people follow your work? How can they support you? Are you going on a speaking tour? Give us some details.
So, as I said, we have established rebuildgaza24.com. It's a good website. It tells the journey. It's up to date with our work on the ground. part of supporting the Palestinian resilience is developing that social network with them and us. We have an excellent team on the ground. We will continue focusing on, at the time being, we're doing some food packages for the Palestinians now. But in the meanwhile, we will continue digging more water wells, more desalination centers. And this group is formed by you guys, by the British public, by the British people. And you can make a difference to the Palestinians. And the last thing that I want to tell the public, please continue going out on strikes. My feelings when I was in Gaza, when I hear when I hear you talking, George, and when I see the people, protesting, it just makes us, lift our spirit up, makes us feel not being forgotten when, unfortunately and sadly, the Arab world has forgotten completely about the Palestinians.
Well, you'll never be forgotten. Dr. Mohamed Al-Saka, Doctor Humanitarian, and I hope Nobel Laureate. Thank you for the heroic efforts that you have made and for the very difficult task of appearing on television tonight when 3 of your dear colleagues, your family members, have only just been gunned down.